Hello, Tim. Thank you for being here today.
Hello, Gary.
Yeah, this is actually our second interview of the day.
Yes.
We did a interview on my other channel, which is Gary and Pastor Andrew in the Philippines, where Tim shared his testimony. So today, on the kind of continuation, we're going to get into your experience in the Philippines.
Yeah. You know, my first experience in the Philippines was back in 1994. My ex-wife and I adopted a little boy from an orphanage in Manila. And so I really didn't know much about the Philippines at the time. Did some research on it, and we got on an airplane, flew over here. I did not know what to expect at all. And it was probably one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Really?
I'll never forget it. It was a miracle. We had our first child. We were introduced to him, and we did quite a bit of traveling around the Manila area. Went up into Baguio and some other sites. You know, some volcanoes and some beaches, and it was really a great experience. And I fell in love with it.
Right. I've got to ask you this, because you adopted your son.
Yes.
For the Philippines. Now, were you targeting the Philippines as a place to adopt from?
No.
So this was by chance then, I guess.
It was by chance. We did target international adoption because at the time in the U.S. there were these horror stories all over the news about parents who would give their children up for adoption and then decide, 6 months later they want the baby back, and bringing it. That's just something we didn't want to touch on. So we were advised that an international adoption is final.
Right.
And so that was the only reason. It didn't really matter where the baby was from.
Right, okay. It's interesting. Anyway, they brought you out here, and so you got out to Manila and you're traveling around and
so we stayed. It was over a month. I don't remember, it was 2 months or that was a long time ago. But it made a big impression on me. And then what happened was I had a brother-in-law who wound up moving here to the Philippines. So we wound up coming over and visiting him on occasions, and every time I came I liked it more. We would see different places. The last place we spent quite a bit of time over in Bohol, and I just totally fell in love with that.
Really?
We stayed in the resort right on the beach in
Panglao?
In Panglao, yes.
Okay.
In Panglao. And so we had a great time there, and then years down the road I wound up going through a divorce, and after that the Philippines just kept calling me, yes, and I started watching YouTube channels, and then the pandemic came, so I couldn't come over here, and that actually made me more ambitious to come here for some reason.
Right.
So as soon as they opened up the Philippines after the pandemic, I came over. In the meantime, I had met a girl online, and came over. We got married, and I spent, it was over in Sorsogon province, which is in the Bicol region, southern Luzon. And I spent 4 months over there, and that was quite an experience. I was out in the province. You couldn't drive a car there. The only way to get there was on a motorbike.
And I bet that was a rough ride too.
Yeah, that was a very rough ride. It didn't rain the night before.
Right.
And so I lived in a native house out there with no bathroom, no shower. So we had to just fill up buckets of water, and we actually would shower in the kitchen because it was a concrete floor and it was sloped. So we bring buckets of water and dump them over your head, and so coming from the U.S., that was quite a surprise.
Oh my goodness! I'm kind of impressed that you could do it actually.
Well, I was impressed that I made it 4 months. And I wasn't even able to use a toilet the whole time. I went and bought a bucket, and that was my go out under a coconut tree somewhere for a little privacy.
Somewhere with good soft leaves, right?
That's right. And So that was quite the experience. I went out there, I came over here, I weighed about 185 pounds. By the time that 4 months was over, I weighed 160.
Yeah.
And which that's what I weigh now, I think. So, you know, between the food, which was another eye-opener to me, because the previous times I come here, I always went to resort areas. And I did have a hard time with the food the other times I came, you know, the typical tourist thing, you get the stomach virus. But I learned quickly that I thought I was a country boy in the U.S., you know, but I learned that I don't know what country boy is.
Yeah, a whole new concept of what country is.
Yeah, you know, you can live out in the country in the U.S. and still go to the store and buy a steak. You know, here, if you go out into the province, you are out there.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And you know, there were days where all was available was coconut, and you know, maybe you could find a couple of eggs, and and that was it. So after I spent 4 months there, lost so much weight, I had to get out of there.
Yeah, of course.
And so I had Dumaguete stuck in my mind because I had been watching the YouTube videos.
Okay,
and,
so YouTube boy, the Dumaguete.
yeah, the YouTube. So I came over here and didn't know anybody. I just got on an airplane from Legazpi Airport over there in Luzon and flew over here, got off the plane, got an Airbnb, and next morning I went to breakfast at Tom and Tom's, and who did I see there but Paul, you know, old dog Paul, and he walked up to me for some reason and introduced himself, and I told him a little bit about what I was doing. I came here and he introduced me to Alma up at Big Rock, and I wound up moving in up there.
Right.
So I moved in there and I wound up getting a job online immediately, which was another reason I had moved here, because I was running out of money. Because in the beginning I came here, I didn't plan to stay. I planned to stay for 4 to 6 months. I had enough money to last me that long, and I was going to go back to the U.S.
Right.
But once I was here 1 month, I was like, I'm convinced I'm not going back, even living out in the province.
Right.
I felt like the biggest weight was taken off of me.
It felt like you were where you're supposed to be.
Yes, yeah. And so I moved in up there. I met some great guys up there, some Americans and some Europeans, and you know, for the first time I was able to talk English, you know, after 4 months being here. I could speak to my wife, but that was about it. So I made some really good friends up there, some great camaraderie, and that was how I found the Bible study. A friend of mine, John, he came over and he was a Christian, and he and I had actually been going to a Baptist church. We didn't love it, but it was you know, it was a church. And he invited me to go to the Bible study. He hadn't been yet, but he wanted me to go with him. And I said, sure. We got on the motorbikes and went down, and the rest was history. And then I met all of the guys. That was right in the beginning, too.
Right.
And
what year was this?
This was back in 2022.
22, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think the first time I went was in August.
Okay.
And it was small then.
Yeah.
And it just kept growing and growing and growing. It was really amazing. But I got into that, you know, and I started working out again and going to the gym, eating some better food, and got my health, you know. There was nothing wrong with my health other than I just got too skinny.
Right.
But I started working out, started meeting a lot of friends here. This is a great place to come if you're an expat, if you want to meet some people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I have more friends. I've been here about a year and I think 9 months, and I've been here in Dumaguete for about, if you add it all up, it's about a year and 2 months. And since I have been here, I think I've made more friends here than I had in the U.S. when I left.
And the same with me. And actually, it can be a problem sometimes, because I just can't find the time to sometimes go and have a coffee with someone.
That's right.
So, you know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Every day I've got like you know, probably 5 text messages from people who want to meet with me and, you know, come over and talk. And, you know, I didn't have that in the U.S. Everybody's too busy working, and work is great, you know, but...
It's a nice problem to have anyway.
Oh, yeah. It is a good
to have
problem.
too many friends.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And, yeah, so I just had the best time here. I wound up getting my scuba certification.
Yeah.
I did that with my wife and John and his girlfriend at the time. So that was quite an experience. We did a little scuba after that. I haven't been in a little while, but because I have a baby now.
And congratulations on that.
Yes, yeah.
You know, in fact, let's just go back and talk about the baby, because I remember we used to be actual neighbours.
Yes, that's right.
What's about a year? When was that? A year and a half ago?
Yeah, I guess it was about a year ago.
Yeah, so you lived just down the road from me, so I saw you at the gym all the time as well, and Bible studies. But your wife then was pregnant.
Yeah.
And please correct me if I'm wrong, but you told me that she really wants to have the baby in her home province.
That's correct.
To be with the family, and you didn't really want to leave Dumaguete, but you ultimately respected her wishes, and you moved to her home province. So let's talk a little bit about what it was like having to move from Dumaguete to go have the baby, and some of the challenges. And I know you had a big challenge as well, which ultimately brought you back here.
Right, that's correct.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so like you said, she got pregnant, and she wanted to have the baby in her province. She actually wanted to go through the pregnancy in her province too, with her mother and her sisters, which I respected. And I had to stay because I have to work, and I worked online at the time, and there's no internet out there.
No.
So she went, and we just kept in touch, you know, doing video chatting every day. And then we decided to build a little house out there, just a little native Filipino house, but this one had its own bathroom, unlike the one we were staying in before.
It's an upgrade.
Yeah. So, and it was okay. So we moved out. She went there, and they built the house when I wasn't there. They were just showing me videos, and it came out nice. You know, it was just a very basic little with a like the straw roof and the plywood. It was just a basic house. So I went out there, and she wound up going way past her due date, and we went, which is my first introduction to the medical care here, because I hadn't ever been to the hospital here, and I hadn't even been to a doctor here. So I went out there, and I brought her for an ultrasound, and there was an ultrasound place that was about a 45-minute ride from her province. And we had planned on, we found a place that was a birthing center. They have, it was the same place that we were going to, no, the ultrasound place was down the road. So we went and visited the birthing center quite a few times before she had the baby. But we went to, one day she was past, like 10 days past due. We went for an ultrasound, and the ultrasound machine was broken. Which, you know, this is if you spend any time here, that's nothing unusual. No. So they sent us to Sarsagon, which is like another hour away. So now we're like almost 2 hours away from her home.
Yeah.
And so we got on a jeepney, and because I don't even remember how we got there, but we had arranged a ride back to her province. And so we got on a jeepney. We went to this place, sat outside in the rain waiting for this ultrasound for like an hour. She goes inside, she comes back out, and they don't even let you go in there.
Right.
When they do the ultrasound, only she goes in there. She comes back out, and she says her water had already been broken, and was down to like 30 or 40% of the fluid, and she needed to go have a C-section immediately. Wow. And they sent us directly across the street, which was not the place I thought we were going to have the baby.
No.
It sent us directly across the street to a public hospital.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so we go in there, and she went right into surgery, so I didn't really see much of the hospital. she went right into surgery. Everything went fine. The baby came out. So the first experience was, I go see her in the room, and the baby's not with her. She's like, well, they're going to bring the baby soon. So an hour goes by. I'm like, well, where's the baby?
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't know. And so I started asking the nurses, and they're like, well, they'll bring it soon, sir. And I said, okay, well, where is my baby? And so finally I got pushy. I started saying,
so you should.
This is a problem because the baby needs to breastfeed. It's really important that first hour to get the mother's milk. So they showed me where he was, and they just had him sitting on. There was a bed like your desk is over there, and they had the babies lined up on this bed, and he was just laying there, like with nobody. Somebody just sitting in a chair, over here. So I got a little upset, and I started making a lot of commotion, and they immediately got the baby out of there because I wouldn't leave it alone.
Of course.
And they got the baby out of there, thank God, and he, so she was able to feed him, but he started having a cough right away, and they said that some of the amniotic fluid got into his lungs, and he had an infection. So he wound up on an antibiotic immediately, but as a newborn. It was very difficult to get any care for him. There were people laying with newborn babies laying out in the hallway at the hospital.
I believe
it was something out of a movie. And I didn't really know what to do. This was a complete, because the place where he was going to be born, they only have 2 people in there at a time. And didn't know what to do, but they had him on an IV, and he, they were coming in, and the doctor would come in once a day, and she would, there were literally probably 1,000 people on the floor, women there with babies, and she'd come by our bed. I started asking her questions. She wouldn't give me more than a minute or two, and so we brought him. Finally, he was there. He said they cleared him. They said he was going to be there a week. They let us leave after like 3.5 days.
Okay.
Brought him back to the province, which I was very scared about at this point.
Of course.
And he was still on an antibiotic. We brought him back there, and he's always coughing. The cough never went away. We bring him back. We were bringing him to the doctor once a week, and they'd say he's got pneumonia now, and they need him on keep him on an antibiotic. And he seemed to be doing okay, though. He was developing okay. He was. But this went on for about 6 weeks, and but he was a happy baby. He was still smiling at an early age, and just very receptive and alert. But the cough was there.
Right.
And then he finished an antibiotic, and we were praying that would be it for him, because you don't want your baby on an antibiotic that long.
Right.
And the day he went off the antibiotic, he started coughing more. And then by that night at midnight, he was waking. She woke up to feed him, and he couldn't catch his breath.
Oh my goodness, scary.
And here we are. Okay, we're out in the province,
right? And
it's midnight, and we need to get him to a hospital. We have to get in pouring rain on a road that is just mud.
Right. No.
And her brother had to drive, and bless him, and my sister-in-law, they came with us, and I followed on a motorbike through the mud, and my legs were literally up to here in mud, and I was covered in mud. We get there to the hospital. I had no clothes, nothing. So we go to this hospital. It's another public hospital, and we go in this room, and I mean, all you've got is, first of all, kids who are as sick or sicker than him in there, okay? And we're all like packed in like sardines, and there's people in there just acting crazy, listening to TikTok, and I mean, I don't even know what they're thinking. They have a baby in there that's sick, and they're dancing to TikTok. And so we stayed in there about an hour and a half, and there was really no medical care. They kind of shoved us in this room, so we got out of there. We had them take us in an ambulance to a private hospital.
Well, good. That's a good move.
Yes. So we get to the private hospital, and the doctor examines him and then does an x-ray of his lungs, and she's like, how did this happen? How did he get this sick? And I'm like, I'm asking her, well, what's going on? She goes, well, he has acute pneumonia. And I'm like, is he going to be okay? She goes, I don't know. She goes, she told me is you need to pray right now. And
which can't imagine how tough that must be.
Oh, it was so scary. And being an American, we're used to having medical care at our fingertips.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And I got put in a place there were no specialists around. But this woman, she was a wonderful doctor, and she's very caring, and she did the right thing. We got him into a room. We got a private room, and he was on an IV, and he was on oxygen. And that went on, but still, he wasn't getting any better. There were several incidents over the course of about a week. We were there. There was 3 different times where he couldn't catch his breath again, and they had people pounding this, and then there was a problem with his IV. The IV came out, and they wanted to put a new IV in. So they have him there, and they're trying to find a vein. He's just a little, he's not even 2 months old.
Yeah.
And they've got they're holding him down, poking pins in his arms, after about 20 tries. I was praying, and I have all these people around me, they don't understand English. Okay, here in Dumaguete, people understand English for the most part. Yeah. There, nobody understood me except for the doctor, but she wasn't there.
Right.
So I'm asking what's going on. They can't explain to me, and I'm praying over my son. I'm casting demons out of him, and God spoke to me, and I just said, "Stop. No more. You take no IV." And I talked to the doctor, got her on the phone, and she said, "We can just give him. We've got 2 choices. You can go into surgery, and we can, surgically put the IV in him, or we can just, go on an oral." And I said, "We're not doing surgery on him."
No.
So we got him the oral medication, and praying, and you know what? It was a miracle. Within the next 24 hours, everything just cleared up.
Praise God.
They did an x-ray of his lungs. They don't know what happened. They were doing x-ray like every other day, and they were getting worse. And they did an x-ray. We had an x-ray from 2 days ago. You hold the 2 of them next to each other, and his lungs were completely clear.
Wow. That's the power of prayer, I'm telling you.
It was the power of prayer.
The Holy Spirit, and I believe that anyway.
And there was so many, and it was not only my prayers, because I know you and all my brothers from the Bible study where we were all praying, and it was the power of all of us. And then we got out of there, and there was a typhoon going on over there. And I've told you about the road leading to her province. It was mud, and we couldn't get there, which was God sent, because she wanted to go back there, and I couldn't imagine bringing him back there, because he needed to be close to it. It made me realize that he needs medical care close by. So I needed to bring him back here. This is the only place I knew that I knew I could get him to a hospital if he needed to immediately. I knew there were some good physicians here, and I knew people like you, and you were very helpful to me, actually.
Well, I think a lot of the people in the Bible.
Yeah, but you helped me. You introduced me to the doctor that we see now, and we got back here and got him to a specialist, and followed all of her instructions, and he's just doing great now.
Praise God.
Praise the Lord, Praise the Lord.
Yeah. Well, what a story.
It really was a story. And there's a lot more to it. I mean, just the way that the fact that we were able to get over here, it was a struggle to get here. And, there was a lot of help from a lot of people, a lot of people involved. it, you know, we came over here, we had a house waiting for us, and, you know, it was just a really wonderful thing.
Yeah. And do you plan on staying here now? It's going to be...
I do plan, you know, well, in the Philippines, this is where I will be. I won't go anywhere else. I've gone back and forth with the possibility of going back to the U.S. for a little while to work. Still pondering that. Just to work for another year, just to save up some money until I can get the Social Security pension.
Sure.
But I will definitely, will be here the rest of my life, other than maybe going over there, you know, for a short period of time. This is where my wife is from. I feel like I'm at home here in Dumaguete.
I understand that. Well, by the way, thanks for sharing that story as well with us. Well, Tim, thanks for being on the channel today and sharing your stories. I feel like we could go on for a long time talking about stuff, but we have limited time. So, thank you. And if you, as I said at the beginning, remind you again, on my other channel, Gary and Pastor Andrew in the Philippines, Tim is sharing his testimony and really how he came to know Jesus. So I do encourage you to watch that. So thanks again. I will look forward to seeing you on the next video. And in the meantime, God bless everybody.